Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to our budget community portfolio series for the month of June 2025. Got to start off by saying I'm very sorry. I know that I'm super late on making this video for the month. As some of you know, I was very sick and I had a lot of things kind of hitting me all at once. So it just kind of delayed everything for me, but we're here now. So I'm going to try to make the best of it. And I can't wait to give you guys an update on the portfolio. It's one of my favorite things that we do on the channel. Now, just a heads up though, this is not my larger private portfolio. This is the smaller, on a budget public one, where I only deposit $100 each month into this new account, and then I use that money to invest in stocks, some of which is also influenced by you guys through various polls, comments, and messages that you send me, especially on Discord. And then I do an update video for you once a month here on YouTube, and it's separated into two parts. First, we cover how the portfolio is performing so far with all the trades we made last month in May. And then that's followed immediately by part two, where I cover how each individual stock is performing in the portfolio, either up or down. And I also talk about what I plan to buy in this current month here in June. Now, before we start though, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you'd like to get full access to this portfolio, as well as our private community Discord, where you can reach me, hang out with other members, and even get access to my daily stock trade where I post a new stock purchase every single day, then you can get access to all of that by supporting me on Patreon. Link is in the description. And thank you, of course, to everyone that does support the channel, because I really couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much for that. And lastly, just want to mention we do use SoFi for this account, which I'm a very big fan of. It's completely free to use. And if you use my referral link down in the description, you'll even get a bonus $25 worth of stocks just for trying it out. Okay, with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump into part one now and take a look at how the portfolio is really holding up so far, also kind of the market itself and what's been going on this past month and what moves I made here in the past month in May. Which, speaking of May, well, it was a very strong month for us and the community portfolio. This, of course, coming off of the tariffs kind of crash that we saw in the market in April. You can see that on this chart here of the S&P 500. This is a year-to-date chart. And then around the end of April and really all throughout May, and even now here into June, we've just had a very, very nice recovery as, more trade deals got done, more optimism with China because of new trade talks, all kinds of just kind of positive news starting to circle around the market. And that really helped lift it back up, causing the S&P 500 to actually be positive now for the year at just under 3% gains. Now, our portfolio is performing even better than that, though, with another solid rise in the month of more than 7% just this past month. And that's leaving us up in total now by a whopping 25%. That's about $500 of gains there, which gets even better when you exclude the nearly $300 that we have just sitting in cash. That would actually leave our actual stock investments up almost 30%, close to 30% that we're up there. And of course, I'm very happy to see that. And by the way, just imagine if we were really rich, if this wasn't like a very, very budget portfolio, but if we were very rich, and instead of just depositing like $100 per month, let's say that we invested like in total, let's say we invested like $1 million, for the past year or so, we would have easily made well over $250,000 in profit. And that's why, that really just shows you how the rich always get richer, because the more money that you have to invest out there in the market, the more profit, of course, you're going to be able to generate. And it can just compound. And the more you have, the bigger the gains will be. And by the way, that's not even including dividends. So the gains would actually be much more than that, because we actually have tons of big dividend payers in this portfolio. So imagine that, also adding on to the gains for, over a year or so. It would be very, very nice. But hey, a boy can dream, right? Maybe one day we'll have that. But anyway, going back to the portfolio here, we did go over budget in May. I spent $120 on stocks, but you have to keep in mind that this was mostly because the month was extended into June. I cut it off on June 10th, I believe. that's when I started taking all these screenshots here. So it really went into like a third of June that was added onto May. So that's why we went over budget there. But of course, if you look back at like April, for example, April, that was really a record setting month for us because of the tariffs drop. Of course, I always preach to you guys when stocks are going down, that's when I like to go in and buy a lot heavier. So I bought a lot heavier in April, and then we had a big recovery, throughout May. So I didn't buy as much as I did in April, and again, that was extended a bit into June. But I think here in June and now in this month, obviously our spending is going to come down quite a bit because, well, we're not only having the market recovering already, but again, it is a shorter month for us because like a third of June went into May. So anyway, sorry, I don't know if I'm rambling or making it too complicated there. But anyway, the point being that June will be a much lower month of spending, but we'll still, of course, be buying stocks as always. Now, going into it here, in terms of what stocks I bought during the month of May for the community portfolio, well, I did run just a couple surveys. Now, I do promise that I'll be running much more surveys in the coming months to get more of your guys' feedback. In May, it was, again, a very hectic month for me, and I was sick and lots of things going on, and that extended into June. But I will do more surveys and polls in the future. But when looking at it here, I did run a couple polls during the month of May, and that includes this one here from YouTube, where I asked you guys which of our 4 newest additions should I buy more of, to which 57% of the votes went to PepsiCo for the clear winner, with really only Realty Income even being like remotely close at 24% of the votes. Both of those, by the way, though, were just added to the portfolio, I believe, for the first time the month prior. So those were very new additions for us. 2 stocks that I really like a lot. And PepsiCo got the win, so I added more PepsiCo stock. Then over on Discord, I asked you guys, which of our 10 worst performing stocks should I buy more of? To which we actually had a very rare 4-way tie. That was between Baidu, C3.ai, Pfizer, and Medtronic. So I actually had to make an executive decision there, and I ended up choosing to go with C3 since it was not only down by double digits at negative 12%, but it was also one of our smallest positions too that I've been wanting to build up larger anyway. So I kind of just made that executive decision to buy more of C3.ai stock. And that actually worked out pretty great for us, by the way, because they ended up rebounding right after I had bought more of them, which I'll show you in just a second in part 2 when we cover how much each individual stock is either up or down. But in total, I spent by far the most money during the month on PepsiCo at $50 worth of that stock. So about half of our entire budget. And that's mostly because I just can't believe, guys, how low the stock continues to trade after the big drop off that they had this past year, leaving a mouth-watering dividend of well over 4% on over 5 decades of consecutive growth. And that's easily one of the best and most reliable dividends that you can get out there in the entire market. So while it continues to trade this low, I'm going to be scooping up shares while I can and actually feature them, I believe, in the 3 stocks for June video. So recently I even talked about that too. But yeah, PepsiCo is a stock that I have been investing quite heavily in, and even in my personal private portfolio too. Now, after that, though, $15 went to Realty Income, and that's our newest REIT with also a very good dividend above 5.5%. So I've been scooping up shares while I can there too, while that dividend is high. And then $10 each on C3.ai. Again, one of my favorite kind of a little bit speculative kind of plays on AI right now. Also Medtronic, one of my favorite dividend and just all around strong businesses in healthcare technologies, and Tyson Foods, another great dividend payer and a big play on the meats market, which I don't think will ever really go away. And finally, I spent just another $5 each on Baidu. That's a beaten down Chinese play on AI. Bristol Myers, a big dividend biotech, and Disney, who actually rebounded huge after that purchase too. And I'll show you that in just a second. How we were actually, we used to be negative on Disney, and now we're actually positive on it. They had a very nice rebound like this past month. Speaking of which, though, let's go ahead and move over to part 2 now. And let's take a look at how each individual stock is performing in the portfolio and which ones I'll be looking to buy more of here in this month here in June. Okay, so here's all the holdings on SoFi. It's obviously hard to see in a single screenshot, so I break this down into custom charts, and I post everything on Discord too if you want to take a closer look at any of these. But as you can see, around half of our portfolio currently resides in just 7 stocks, with Google being the largest, followed by Palantir, who just kind of rose in the rankings because of how much the stock has soared on its own, just like this past year or so. And then Amazon is at number 3, great core stock, followed by Microsoft, another great core stock. So I love having both of those like in the top, 4. And then Extra Space Storage, one of my favorite dividend REITs, comes in there at number 5. Then we have SoFi, another tech stock that just soared a lot like Palantir. And then Vici Properties, another favorite dividend REIT of mine. We also have some fantastic dividend payers, though, with market-leading businesses around the middle of the portfolio and companies like Pfizer, Medtronic, Verizon, PepsiCo, Tyson Foods, and even some non-dividend focused stocks like Disney, Meta, and Nvidia. All of those I feel are doing a great job in kind of the middle of the portfolio. And then I would say there's not really too much on here that I feel needs a lot of rebalancing, other than just maybe wanting to buy a little more of a couple of my favorite dividend REITs in Realty Income and American Tower, who are both sitting at just around 1% weight each. And I like those for dividends and other reasons. Where things do get a little more interesting, though, is in the individual gainers and losers, mostly because of really just the type of investor that I am. I like to buy a lot heavier. Whichever stocks, I like to kind of choose whichever stocks I'm either only up a little bit on or that I'm actually negative on. Those are the ones that I tend to want to buy more of. So that's why I like kind of sharing this with you here and talking a little bit about it. But as you can see, most of the stocks in the portfolio that we currently hold are well into the green. And I'll zoom in here so that it's easier to see. But we start with the double digit gainers first. This now houses most of our positions, which is pretty crazy. So, I mean, that's how good we're doing so far. With Palantir, of course, being by far our best performer at close to 400% gains, followed by tons of stocks, still up around 40 to 80% as well. And then we have another big batch there, still in the double digits. By the way, all 4 of our biggest stocks are on this list: Google, Palantir, Amazon, and Microsoft. So I'm happy to see that they're performing, relatively well. And then going into the single digits, I think there's several on here that I wouldn't mind at all buying more of, but especially I would say EXR, Vici, and Realty Income. Those are 3 fantastic dividend REITs, as well as, of course, I would say PepsiCo, who I plan to continue buying heavily in the coming month. And those 4 stocks alone right there, I think would just kind of give us plenty of not just huge dividends, which is really important for growing such a small and young on a budget type of portfolio like this, but it also gives us capital gains potential too, because all 4 of those I actually think are very undervalued still. And we have big positions in them. So they actually have a lot of weight in the portfolio. It's one of the reasons why the portfolio isn't up huge, like gigantically. It's performing very well, but it's not up like a gigantic amount. And part of that is because we have big weight on some of these stocks that are only up, up by smaller amounts. But in my opinion, these are very undervalued stocks. So longer term, I think there is definitely potential for them to, again, not only be paying us dividends while we wait for the recovery, but I also feel that they will have recoveries long term. That's just my opinion. Of course, you don't have to copy me or anything like that. I'm just sharing with you how I feel and why I invest in some of these different stocks. Now, unfortunately, there's only 3 stocks in the red at the moment, which I like to have more stocks in the red so that I have more options of things that I can be buying a little more aggressively. And 2 of them are also a bit higher risk, like in Baidu and Pfizer. And we have a pretty big position in Pfizer, so don't necessarily want to be buying a lot more of that one at the moment. But definitely Tyson Foods, I think we could be buying more. We have a decent sized position in it though. And then Pfizer, I think, is also fine to be adding a little more to. I just think those 2 stocks in particular have like dirt cheap valuations, big dividends, and I do think that they're market leaders who will eventually rebound, because I just think they're being a little bit slept on at the moment. I think there's a lot of negativity on them, but I think long term, they're going to be in pretty good positions, in my opinion, to see a recovery on. So anyway, also I would like to just quickly mention that, because there's only a couple of, stocks in the red, I'm having the urge to add another stock, another new stock that could be a small position that we could gradually add to. And one stock that I'm looking to pick up here is in Adobe, who I actually just talked about them in my last Ray Dalio video. But it was a great reminder to me that I've really always wanted to own this stock for how sticky their business is across all their apps and platforms that are really getting even more demand now because of the integration of AI into everything that they can do. Yet the stock price is actually down around 40% from the pandemic highs. So right now might be that great opportunity that I've kind of been waiting for to jump in. And I actually picked up some of it in my personal portfolio already, but I think that I would like to add it here in the community one too. So let me know what you guys think about that. I'm actually going to release a poll. I think I'll do it right at the time that I release this video. I'm going to release it on Discord, and I'm going to ask you guys which new stock you would want to see added. And some of the options that I think we could include will be, of course, Adobe, but also a few other stocks that I like right now, like Stanley Black& Decker, Merck, Federal Realty, Air Products and Chemicals, and probably a couple other popular names that we don't own either, like Apple and Broadcom. So please go vote when you see this. It'll be over in the polls section of our Discord. And personally, I am hoping that Adobe wins. But I wouldn't mind to see a few other stocks too, like Stanley Black& Decker or Federal Realty, because they also have some really nice dividends too. I think they're around like 5% each right now. So there's some good stocks out there that we could add that we still don't have in the portfolio. But we'll see how that poll turns out. And of course, we'll have the results in the next update video too. But anyway, those are my thoughts for the current month. I did add another fresh $100 for this month's new budget as well, which brings our account up to nearly $2,600, and that leaves us with a cash ratio of just around 15%. Anyway, that'll do it for this month's update. If you have any questions, drop them down below. I'm actually planning to do another Ask Ale episode soon here on YouTube. So make sure you leave any questions you have for me that you would like to see answered in that upcoming video. But thanks again for stopping by, my friends. I hope you are all doing well out there. I thank you for all of your support. It means a lot to me. And I'll catch you in the next one. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.